Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Cackling Pumpkins, and this is another creaky ass chair. This is another Behind the Patch, and today we are talking about, well, of course, who do you see on the side of the screen? This is Ashe Remains. Now, you may recognize Ashe Remains as my VTuber model I've used for Screaming Skeletons, live streams, and a few other projects here and there. She's also appeared on many thumbnails, such as 2 thumbnails for reviews of both Simpsons Hit and Run and Family Guy the video game. So it's worth noting that she is effectively the face of Cackling Pumpkins at this point, but she wasn't always going to be the face of Cackling Pumpkins. In fact, there was a point in time where I almost flat out rejected the entire character. Well, let's go into the character's story. Who exactly is Ashe Remains? Well, I haven't exactly fleshed out her entire story, unfortunately, but this is pretty much what I've got so far. A lot of this is subject to change simply because, well, this is not the most fleshed out story I've created. I need to actually sit down and write down her story. But essentially the idea is so. She is essentially a punk rock star from the 2000s and unfortunately died during one of her concerts. However, her life was so sinful she wasn't allowed to go to heaven, but not so sinful she needed to go to hell. She ended up being sent between the land of the living and the dead, the closest thing to a connection between all of these worlds, and that is purgatory. In purgatory, she was given a special responsibility to make sure that demons from hell do not use purgatory as sort of a back door to break into the land of the living. So, of course, if demons and spiritual beings and also apparitions of any kind wanted to try to break out of hell into the land of the living, there would need to be someone that would have to stop them, and Ashe is one of these people. She is referred to as a purgatory protector. As a purgatory protector, she is given all sorts of abilities and powers, but of course a lot of her abilities revolve around her old days of being a rock star. So in purgatory, she spends her time facing demons, making sure they do not escape through purgatory. That's why she has these white eyes, because she's not living, nor is she dead. I've heard some people ask if she was a zombie or an undead, and I guess undead wouldn't be wrong to say, but she's not a zombie and she's not completely dead either. However, it's not a 24/7 thing. Like I said, she's not the only protector like this. There's a lot of other protectors inside Purgatory, so she is able to take breaks, and she's even given the luxury to be able to go out to either the land of the living or heaven and hell whenever she pleases, as long as it's during the times when she needs to. As long as she's in Purgatory, fighting demons, making sure they don't escape, then she's able to spend her free time however she pleases. So it's not like her days of a rock star are completely over. I would say her personality is the closest thing to mine, with the biggest exception being that she is way more musically talented than I am. I'm half deaf, and, well, another thing is that she has rhythm and I don't. I got no sense of rhythm. That's why I will never try to make music on my own. I might fool around with like a music program one day, just for the hell of it, but I'm not going to say if it's gonna be good or not. Fun fact, I did try to learn an instrument when I was younger. My sister did violin, and it inspired me to try violin. There's a lot of times when I was younger where I essentially tried to be like my sister in some regards. Many people even believe that's why I got into the alternative scene in horror, because there was a point in time when my sister was. Everyone seemingly thought that's why, but that's one of the few times that wasn't the case. I just gained a genuine interest on those sort of things. That's why, unlike all the other things I just tried to mimic from my sister, trying to be like her, this is the one that stuck because it wasn't based on my sister, but a lot of my family seemed to think that. Understandably so, we did have that habit of trying to do things just because my older sister did it. But violin didn't really work out for me, but I wanted to do an instrument. I tried doing the trumpet, and that didn't last either, unfortunately. So no, I don't know how to play an instrument. The closest thing I guess would be like the recorder, but that has been like since intermediate school. But anyway, moving on. What about the character's appearance? How'd that come to be? Well, I was just kind of in the mood to create kind of an emo mascot. You know, like those characters from like the 2000s that are like the faces of the alternative scene. You know, like Gurr, oh god, who's another one? Pawn and Z are a good example of this. And I just wanted to kind of add my own with my inspirations from stuff like Edmund McMillan, Jonan Vasquez, and a few others, and to create an original character who was kind of an embodiment of the alternative scene, but more on the punk and emo side of it. I also wanted to experiment with some unconventional design ideas that I usually don't do. That's why she's wearing those kind of shorts over top of her stockings. Typically, I don't really do that a lot. That's why she has green hair, kind of like a what is that called? It's not a highlight. It's like under her hair, but because her hair is so big, you can kind of see it from the front. But if you turn her around, it would still be back. That's why I decided to do that. I've never done that with a character before, or even giving them like green hair either. So, also the big sketch white eyes, and believe it or not, at first, I wasn't completely into the character. The first drawing, according to Newgrounds, was created in August 2021. It's nearly 2 years ago at this point, and as you can see, her design, it really isn't that different, with the exception being like the size of her head and her mouth. But for some reason, I just really wasn't into the character just yet. But then I decided to try to implement her into a story featuring Elizabeth Darlington and Ember Crave. Originally, when it came to the story I was creating, she was going to actually be one of the main characters. But then I decided that since Ashe is more laid back, she's more someone who craves violence, she can be insane sometimes. And she actually has fun fighting monsters. We already have a character who's kind of like that though. Ember Crave loves to fight monsters, but she's more on the sadistic side, and she's not at all chill. But the thing is, having two characters in this horror story that find enjoyment out of fighting monsters, I feel as if would shift the tone a little too much, so that's why Ashe was left out for a while. But it was during that redesign for that character I actually created a sketch, I'm not sure if I ever completed it, featuring Elizabeth, Ashe, and Ember. And it was that point I decided to make one change that made me fall in love with the design. And that was implementing that mouth that she has. That mouth was inspired by artist Derek J. Wyatt, who he would incorporate that mouth with some of his other characters like Beast Boy or Ben Tennyson. Okay, not his characters, his interpretation of those characters. You know what I mean though. I've always interpreted this smile as sometimes radiating smug energy or little shit energy, and honestly that's the kind of character that she can be sometimes. She could be chill when she wants to be, but other times she's the exact opposite. She could go from 0 to 100 instantly, and there's almost no in between whatsoever. And I felt as if that smile, it makes her look more relaxed when she's chill, it makes her look smug when she's not, it makes her look absolutely insane when she's supposed to be. That smile is what saved her. It was just that one change of going from just a curved smile to that smile she has right now that saved the character from being forgotten. But even so, she wasn't going to be a part of Elizabeth's story, and that seemed like a bad time for the character because there was nothing really left for her. That was until I just kind of decided I wanted to make a VTuber model using voices. There is a engine right now. What is it called exactly? It is called ViadoTube Mini. I don't know if that's the exact. Oh look! Oh my God! I'm in the grid. As you can see, I already have other models I created before. One is Faith. I just kind of altered her mouth and gave her a controller in her hands. This was from another piece, that's why it doesn't look too good. I'm not very happy with the mouth. And at one point, we also have Elizabeth Darlington, but she doesn't really fit my personality, and of course, looking at her right now, she doesn't really fit my voice or my personality. So, and she only appeared in one video, that was the Luigi's Mansion stream. So that's why I went with Ashe, because I thought, you know what, she matches my personality. Out of all characters, she matches my personality the most. Faith kind of matches my personality a little bit, but she isn't as, I would say, extra as I can be sometimes. And I was already working on a project for her. This is before Faith Plays originally was going to be Leave It to Faith, but now she still has her own series in the form of Faith Plays. So I wanted to be able to show off as many of my characters as possible, so I went with Ashe. And it was from that point on that she just started to get this ever-growing presence in Cackling Pumpkins, to the point where she became the face of Cackling Pumpkins as of this year. It's a crazy ride for a character, creating her once in 2021, and then not really being a fan of her character, just making one change and falling in love with her, but realizing that she didn't really work for the story that she was going to be in, and then when things seemed bleak, I just made her into a VTuber model, and now she's the entire face of Cackling Pumpkins. Such a wild ride for this character, and she deserves it too. She is great. Just look at her now, just bouncing around every single time I speak. I need to get the mic closer towards me so that she can actually be more linked with my speech and whatnot. The problem with this is that it's sound based, So like if my dog barks loud enough, she'll bounce up and down, and if I just crinkle a bottle, she knows how to speak a plastic bottle. That means I love you in plastic bottle. So yeah, going from a character I originally didn't like to now being the face of Cackling Pumpkins, Ashe Remains has been through a wild ride. It just goes to show, always experiment, and even if you're not satisfied with a character design you've made, tweak it even just a tiny bit, sometimes just that one element that you need to just change the character and you'll immediately fall in love with them. And never want to not do anything with them. I feel like fucking Walt Disney standing next to Mickey Mouse right now.